Lovely, another wet and windy day here just outside Dundalk, County Louth. Hope you're all keeping well. Haven't had any videos up for the last number of weeks, just been busy with other things going on. I did intend to take a couple of weeks of a break, which I usually do every maybe 3 months or so. I take a week or two off, just to get away from the posting and editing and all that kind of stuff, because it is very time consuming. 2 weeks turned into 4 weeks, and here we are. Anyway, we'll get back at it now again. What have we been doing? We've been quite busy the last week or so. Today's video, we're going to have a look at how calving is going. We're going to have a look at what we've been doing to help reduce our fertiliser bill, seeing as the price of fertiliser is just through the roof now over the last number of weeks. We're going to be looking at that as well. And so while I'm here, I'll just give a quick look at some of the beef cattle. This is the shed that we penned off one of the pens here, just to leave the pens a little bit smaller. And the one thing I will say about leaving the pens smaller and dividing them like this, there's room for maybe an animal or two less in the pens because of the gate. There's definitely the bigger pens, you could squeeze an extra animal or two in. I've noticed that already. If the gate wasn't here, we could have an extra couple of animals in there and it wouldn't look as crowded as what it is. So that is the only thing that I would say. But yeah, beef cattle are doing well. We'll have a lot of cattle going in the next few weeks, probably to month, and yeah, doing very, very well. Bulls are starting to come in quite fast now. They're all fleshing off very nicely, which is what you want to see this time of the year, and especially with the way the price of everything is ballooning out of control. Maize meal in the last week or so, it's up €100 a tonne. It's around 340, 350 a tonne now. Sorry, 440, 450 a tonne. So yeah, it's all going right through the roof at the minute. Barley, wheat, everything. We're not too bad. We have our own barley and wheat still from last year. Now we are running low on it because, well, obviously a lot of the cattle are fed now at this stage, but we still have some heifers that we have to finish, and we'll be feeding them for the next 90 to 100 days on full feed. So it's going to be touch and go whether we've enough. We're going to try and stretch it out. But yeah, it's tough going at the minute with the cost of everything. But yeah, all the cattle are all doing well, and yeah, hopefully we should get a fairly strong price from them. The price is rising now. It has took a while for it to get it moving, but it is rising every week, and it needs to cover the costs. So anyway, that's that. Okay, let's go look at the calving and we'll see how that's going. So calving has really kicked off big time over the last couple of weeks. We started, well, firstly, we used to start calving around the early days of February. We'd have our first calves. We kept the bulls back from the cows for a couple of weeks. In hindsight, we should have kept the bulls back from the cows for about a month, just to kind of push it right back. We're aiming to have our cows calving maybe in the first week of March, or that's what we're going to be aiming for from now on. So yeah, we want to get them to that point so that there's a better chance of getting the calves out early to help combat our ongoing issue with crypto. So kept the cows away from the bulls for those couple of weeks later than usual. It did work to a certain degree, because instead of calving in early February, we started calving around the 3rd week of February. But one of the things that it done by keeping the bulls away from the cows, it has compacted the calving a bit. In little less than 2 weeks, we had 23 calves born. So yeah, we're quite busy on the calving front, which is great, but the problem with that is you run out of space very quickly. We only have 4 holding pens here. We have a couple of holding pens at the back as well that we can use, so that's 6, and then we have a stable where we can put a cow and calf into as well, up on the top of the yard. So we've room for about 7. Then we have to get them in creeping. The problem is when they go in creeping, that's when the crypto can really kick in and start to spread, when the calves are all in the one pens. And we wanted to try and, if we could, get some of the calves outside, which we were able to do this year because the weather last week turned very, very good. And we put 4 calves out on one of the days and 4 more out on the following day. So comes. Come on, go on. Go on, take your first steps out. Go on, come on. Yeah, those calves then were able to go out. They acclimatised outside and they've done very, very well. They're out now. Some of them's out since last. They're out about 5 days. Some of them 4 days, 4 and 5 days they're out. So they've acclimatised well to the weather outside. Now we've had quite a bit of rain today, and it's quite cold. So we're just going to keep a tight eye on them and see how they handle that. But I think they should be okay. There is some good shelter in those fields, and I think they should be all right. But we'll keep an eye on them and just see what happens. But yeah, apart from that, the calving has went really well. We've had to assist a couple of cows with calving. The last calf that was born was this little guy here. He's out of the Limousine bull, and he's out of he's like a Hereford style cow. She's quite a small cow, and yeah, she calved last night on her own, no issues at all. There's a lovely little Charlie calf here on this side. He's a few days old, and he has yeah, he was a little bit sluggish. His mother is a cow that we bred here on the farm. She's out of our old Limousine bull and some of our own cows, obviously, and she's got a little bit of a, when she calves, those first couple of days, she's a little bit of a temperament issue, so you have to just watch her. Usually she wouldn't look at you, she wouldn't touch you. When she calves, you just have to watch her. She's one of those ones. Now, she's never went for us, but she kind of gives us, you always know on the ones that maybe might go for you, and you just have to watch her. But of course, of all the calves, I hadn't really any issue with any of them not drinking or being slow and sluggish. The one that was slow and sluggish is the calf belonging to the cow that might just go for you. So that's how it all goes, I suppose. So yeah, we've had to do a little bit of tricking him just to get him up and go and get him sucking and get him on the cow. We did get our head trapped. If you get a head trapped, it's never so bad, then you can kind of walk with them, and we got that done. But he's up and running now, and he's doing very, very well. That's really the only issue we've had. We've had no other issues. There's been no real scour issues, no crypto issues. Everything has went okay so far. So we'll hopefully can keep going that way. Yeah, mix of Charlie and Limousine calves all born. Charlies are probably slightly bigger on average than the Limousine, but last year's calves, the Limousine seem to have a slightly better growth rate. Some of them have done very, very well, so we'll be very happy with those. So yeah, we'll see going forward. We may go back to Limousine bulls altogether. The Charlie calves can be a little bit slow and sluggish sometimes to get going, slow to get up. They're a little bit softer. You know, they can tend to get sicker a little bit quicker. So yeah, we'll see what happens. We're actually just talking about that at the moment. Our old bull, he's had an ongoing foot issue, and we're probably going to have to get rid of him this year. And the replacement, I think, we'll try and get maybe a bull that's 4 or 5 years old. You know, that someone's kind of finished with, and we'll see. I think it's going to be a Limousine that we're going to go for this time around. But yeah, that's all to be decided. Yeah, so going well. We're about halfway through calving. 8 of them that's outside has relieved the pressure that we have going on inside, so that's great. Yeah, there is some of them now that we have got creeping down the bottom. We'll go down and have a wee look at those now. So the rain continues to fall. Not in here though, these guys are nice and dry. So these are the few calves. Let's close that over. These are the few calves that we have creeping in the back. Not that many. There's 8 in total. 5 of them are ones that have been born in the last couple of weeks. There's also 3 larger ones. You can see them here. The 3 larger ones are the ones that were born last November. They were heifers that we'd in for beefing. Turned out they were in calf. You may remember that. I was watching the channel for a while, and yeah, turned out to be in calf. And that's the calves that we have creeping in the back. So yeah, most of these are now over the danger zone time for crypto. So yeah, hopefully they'll not get it. We're just keeping an eye on them anyway, just in case. One thing to point out The heifers is way ahead of the bulls in numbers wise. I think we've like 18 heifers to something like 18 heifers to 5 bulls or something like that. So they're way ahead. I can't see the bulls catching them back up now at that rate. It happens like that sometimes. A couple of years ago it was something similar with the bulls, but usually if you take one with the other over like 5 years, it's fairly even. But yeah, heifers way ahead. So they are. Some of the calves are, especially the heifer calves, are a little smaller than what the bulls would normally be. But yeah, all doing well, all doing okay. Alright, so last part of the video, fertiliser. We've been trying to figure out a way of trying to keep our fertiliser costs down in 2022. As you know, they've escalated out of control, especially in the last few weeks. But really from the middle of last year, they started creeping up all the time. We played the long game with it. We have extra crops in the ground this year. We're going to need a good bit of extra fertiliser. And when they started creeping up to 350, 400 a tonne, we could have actually pre-booked it last, probably around October time, in around that, for around 350 a tonne. We thought that was too expensive. We thought that it would have come back down. It kept creeping up till around Christmas time, kind of peaked then in January, and started slowly coming back down a little, just started creeping back down a little bit just before, a number of weeks ago, before the whole war in Ukraine and Russia kicked off, and it has just spiraled out of control then since that. So what we've done is we did pre-order 2 loads of our nitrogen. So we've nitrogen locked in at a reasonable price. We've done this like some time back ago, so we're covered for our nitrogen for the year, for both our crops and our fertiliser. But our compound fertiliser, we had to do something with that. So we have a lot of slurry in the yard, and what we've done is we've went and spread slurry on all our crops. So that's what the footage is now. I'm going to do a little voiceover on that, and I'll explain then what exactly we've put on and what way it has all worked out. So let's have a look at that now. Alright, so fertiliser on the cereal ground. This is something that we have done to try and keep the spiralling cost of our fertiliser bill under control. We always have a lot of slurry this time of the year. Good slurry, cattle slurry, coming out of our finishing sheds. So it's fairly good stuff. It always works super well on grass. You put on grass, there's always an immediate response from the grass. And what we wanted to do was we wanted to use the slurry to replace our compound fertiliser on the cereal crops. So this is what we're doing. This is what we're doing. This time of the year we usually are out and applying 150 kgs per hectare of compound fertiliser, usually like 10-5, 25, or some slight variant of that, maybe a 10-7, 25. But what you're doing is you're applying the P&K to the crop for the year. There is also a little bit of nitrogen in there in your compound fertiliser, but it's only fairly small amount, but it does help to get the crop up and running. So this is what we're doing. We've replaced that with the slurry. We're applying the slurry at a rate of 2,000 gallons per acre, which is slightly more than actually what we need. But we wanted to just put a little bit more of it out, and it's actually slightly more than 2,000 gallons a acre we put out, and it's going to be interesting now to see how it all works out. There is some nitrogen content in the slurry. Not all of that is available. There's only like 50% of it is actually available to the crop at this time, but the P&K in the slurry are both fully available to the crop, so you're going to get the full use out of those. It's going to be very interesting to see how it works out over the next number of weeks and to see how the crop responds to it. You can see it's a local contractor here, Kevin Muffy, who's putting the slurry out for us, done a super job. He has a 12 metre, it's a slurry cat dribble ball, and we're sown at 24 metres, so he's had to split every tram lane, if you know what I mean, to just make it matched in, to get it to match in. We were a little bit dubious about splitting the tram lanes, because
you're going to have to tramp on the crop that's already sown, but it has had no effect on it. You could see once he travelled on it, done a couple of splits on the tram lines, you could see that it was doing absolutely no harm. It'll stand up easily afterwards. Ground conditions were very good. We had a lot of dry weather. We had 4 dry days, a strong breeze as well for those 4 days, and there was immense drying, and we were very, very lucky with the weather to get it to get it as dry as it was, because we've had a lot of rain over the previous month or so. So yeah, we were watching the weather tight. We were waiting for that window to open up so that we could just get out on the ground and get this done. So should be a good saving, I think. It should work out around half what it would have cost if we were to buy the bagged fertilizer and to spread out the compound fertilizer. So it is a good saving on that. And the price of the compound fertilizer is actually going up by the day, so it's kind of like a moving target of what it's costing. We can see here I was drawn with our own tractor and tanker, Kevin's 195, and his 4,000 gallon slurry cat was also drawing, and then we had 3 lorries as well drawn as well, just to keep everything going, and it worked out fairly well. There wasn't much wait time in the field, which is what you want. We moved almost 200,000 gallons of slurry between 8 in the morning and 12 midnight that night, so we got a lot of slurry spread. New Holland on a Doda pump here, pumping it out, and it seemed to be putting up super pressure. Don't know much about the slurry systems, but I heard about those Doda pumps in the past, and they seem very good. Alright, so that's a look at what we've done on the fertiliser front for our crops. Going to be very interesting to keep an eye on that over the coming weeks and see how it responds to it. It's going to be intriguing to see, and I will report on it as it goes on and show you how it progresses. So that's really it for today's video. Hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget, if you're not already subscribed to the channel, hit the sub button, leave a like on the video, comment down below. Some exciting stuff coming in the next week or so. With something new coming, which I'm very excited to show you. It should hopefully be here early next week, and when that arrives, I'll do a video on it. So have a good weekend, and we'll see you next week.